So I'm trying to right now formulate a large model of reality that's going to integrate science and spirit into one truth.
Well, that's called alchemy, actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been trying to do that for about 20 years now. I had a similar experience in that I was actually a hard-boiled journalist and very cynical, and really believed only in science and didn't believe in anything at all, and had a mystical experience myself, which I could not explain, and I'd had some before, but I had never really cognized them. But once I had it, I couldn't stop, and I fell into the thing, and just like you, began reading everything I could until I think I've reached an approximation of what the shape of reality might look like. I can't tell you much more than that, but it's very interesting to watch somebody go from the kind of realist, pragmatist to the mystic, and it's probably the most incredible adventure that anybody can actually ever take.
I agree.
And we're going to take a break here. We'll be right back with John Jay Harper. We're going to be talking about his book Transformers. We'll be talking about new stuff coming out. I want to remind you also that Sacred Mysteries has a new video, Sophia Returning, with John Lash. Infinity, the Ultimate Trip, and we have the Qigong series, and a lot more coming out, so stay tuned. This is Smoke and Mirrors with Jay Weidner, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes to talk to John Jay Harper. And we're back. I'm Jay Weidner, listening to the Smoke and Mirrors Radio Hour, 6 to 7 Pacific. That's in the evening and in the morning, and 9 to 10 on the East Coast on the satellite, available for broadcast and heard on the Internet. You can hear us at sacredmysteries.com, jayweidner.com, and you can also go to our new website, smokeandmirrorsradio.net. And you can write to me if you have a question at editor@smokeandmirrorsradio.net. And we might even open up the phones here if you have a question for John in a few minutes. But I want to talk to John about a couple of things that he mentioned because they're very interesting to me. If you're interested in John Jay Harper, you can go to his site at www.johnjharper, just like it sounds.com. And he's got a whole bunch of goodies here, videos, books, all sorts of stuff, and articles even. And go there and check it out. It's very interesting. And he's barking up the same kind of trees that I am. So we have actually a lot in common. Fortunately, he has a science background, which I do not have, so I cannot claim some of the things that he can claim because I just don't have the cred. But be that as it may, I wanted to talk to you about the pineal gland because it really is the seat of the soul, and it is the key, I believe, to understanding alchemical processes. And the pineal gland, as you know, it emits certain secretions, and these secretions are very interesting in what they do to the human body. And the way the gravity pulls these secretions down through the endocrine system is also very interesting because in some ways these secretions actually rule the entire endocrine system, and therefore the immune system, the consciousness, the body, and everything else. And I was wondering what you thought of that.
Well, I think you're right on target, Jay. I think let me take this conversation global, then we'll bring it down to the cell level within the brain and body itself. One of the fascinating insights that I was given during interviewing near-death experiencers 20 years ago up to about 15 years ago was this constant idea that they had undergone a physiological change from their near-death experience. Now, they couldn't articulate it for the most part. There are a couple individuals in my book, however, who did a very good job of it, actually now have medical patents on some light-emitting diode technologies that will be used in healing that they gained from their near-death experience itself. But what I realized with a science background and my own after-death communication, because what happened to me, Jay, was when I saw my deceased friend, who was an optics physicist by profession, George Vigay, again, was his name, and this begins the opening chapter in my book. But I realized from seeing my friend George that I was undergoing a very dramatic energetic shift in consciousness where I could see him shimmering in front of me. I could feel this. I had come out of a kind of a deep sleep or a lucid dream state at 4 a.m. in the morning, that June 1988 date that will live in infamy for me, at least. And when I saw George, it was a telepathic communication that got my undivided attention. And basically what I saw was a very healthy, very smiling, very wonderful presentation of my friend, who I could confirm immediately was not dead. And this telepathic communication, though, had so much depth to it. It was feeling. And, of course, telepathy, tele meaning distance, and empathy meaning feeling, so feeling at a distance was what I experienced. And now, when I started interviewing near-death experiencers, they were conveying the same idea, that telepathy was what we were going to experience more and more as Earth changes accelerated. And many of them were very, emphatic about that point, that the third eye was opening. Now, they didn't say the pineal gland, and they didn't talk about the biochemistry, but they told me that the third eye would open. So that led me into this investigative path of looking at the physics and the metaphysics of spiritual and metaphysical experiences. And again, I concluded from my own experience that there had to be as you say, a hormonal connection then with almost all metaphysical experiences, that there was something going on in the chemistry of the body through DNA, and that, DNA, RNA, let's give our listeners a real quick update on DNA. DNA, which is a substance, a chemical, diaribonucleic acid, that drives all living systems. That it's in the air we breathe, it's in the water we drink, it's in every living cell in our body that can replicate itself, self-assemble itself. So from this, you might say, genetic blueprint that's within DNA, what we find is that there's these self-assembly machines that can break down all the electromagnetic fields of the body into chemical systems. The chemical becomes a biological or physical cell, and that generates proteins. And proteins are the motors, by the way, that drive our behavior, that drive our feelings, drive our thoughts. This entire living system of the Earth, for example, has now been mapped as a living cell itself. It's a living being that we're enveloped in, that we're integrated within. And so the Earth changes then become very significant to what might be going on now within us. We are, as the ancient said, as above, so below, as within, so without. So we're seeing these levels of mirrors, if you will, reflecting all this information at scales of economy up and down the entire biosystem, the biosphere. And so it is my belief now, to summarize real quick what's going on with Earth changes, is that we're being...
Hang on, John.
Yeah.
John, hang on to that. We're going to take a break. That is really incredibly interesting. I want to make sure we get back to that. I'm Jay Weidner. You're listening to Smoke and Mirrors. We're talking to John Jay Harper, and we'll be right back.